Okay, so today's lesson is mixed numbers with regrouping. We're going to practice subtracting mixed numbers. And in order to subtract these mixed numbers, we're going to need to know how to either regroup or change it to improper fractions, which you learned in yesterday's lesson. So to start out, let's review our vocabulary. Numerators and denominators, top and bottom portions of a fraction. Mixed numbers is a whole number in a fraction. Simplify and reduce means that we're getting the lowest form of the fraction possible. Lowest common denominator is the denominator that two fractions have in common. It's the lowest one. A multiple is a number that you can multiply into another number without any remainders. Regrouping, that's that thing that you learned yesterday where you had to take a whole from the whole number and add it to the fraction. And then a fraction greater than 1 is the same thing as an improper fraction. It's exactly how it sounds. It's a fraction that is greater than 1 whole. Alright, so let's do a quick review with subtracting with models, okay? So, we have 3 4/8 minus 1 2/4. We know right off the bat we cannot subtract these because they do not have the same denominators. So we need to try to get these two denominators with the lowest common denominator that we can get. So what is a number that 4 and 8 can both go into? Well, 4 can go into 8 and 8 can go into itself. So 4 times what will give me 8? Well, 4 times 2 gives me 8. 4 times 2 gives me 8, and then remember that rule. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do the top. So 2 times 2 equals 4. So now that I've renamed 3 4/8 minus 1 4/8, let's use our models. I'm going to shade in here 3 wholes and 4 out of the 8 parts. And I'm going to cross out my 1 whole and 4 of the 8 parts. And let's see how many I have left over. I have 1 whole and 2 wholes. So 3 4/8 minus 1 2/4 is 2. Pretty simple. Alright, so we have a problem here. 2 1/5 minus 1 9/10. Can't subtract these because they don't have the same denominator. So I'm going to write it this way so that I can see it a little bit easier. I need to figure out what's the common denominator that both of these things have. Well, 5 can go into 10, so I know that if I make this a 10, I don't have to change this one, but 5 times 2 can give me a 10. So 1 times 2 is 2. So 2 2/10 minus 1 9/10. All right, we're ready to go. But wait, 2/10 minus 9/10. I can't do 2 minus 9. What do you think I have to do? Well, this is where your regrouping skills come in handy. So you have two options here. You can either regroup 2 2/10 so that you can subtract, or you can turn it in both of these numbers into improper fractions. So let's regroup this one first. Let's practice that. 2 2/10 minus 1 9/10. Alright, I need to regroup and borrow from the wholes. So I have 2 wholes here. If I borrow 1 whole number from here, that makes this number really a 1. And I need to add a whole here. Well, my denominator is 10, and 10 over 10 is a whole. So if I add 10 over 10 here, it's really like I'm adding a whole number. 2 plus 10 is 12, and my denominator is 10. So now I can subtract. Let's rewrite it over here. 1 12/10 minus 1 9/10. 12 minus 9 is 3. My denominator will always stay 10, and I'm running out of room to write here. So I know that my fraction, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So I know that the answer to this problem is really 3/10. Pretty easy, right? Alright, so you might be wondering, what was the other way that I was talking about? Well, you could also have changed these numbers into improper fractions, and then you could have avoided grouping at all. So remember our rule. If you want to change to an improper fraction, you multiply and then add. Okay, so my whole number times my bottom number, that's 2 times 10, which is 20. And then I add my 2 up here. 20 plus 2 is 22. And then my denominator stays exactly the same, which is 10. Okay, so I have 22 tenths. Let's do it with the bottom one. 1 times 10, bring that around and add to here. 1 times 10 is 10. Then if I add the 9 here, 10 plus 9 is 19. My denominator stays the same, which is 10. So now I can subtract 22 tenths minus 19 tenths. Well, 22 minus 19 is 3. And my denominator stays the same, which is 10. Well, look at that. We got the same exact answer. So you could have used either strategy to solve this problem, either regrouping or renaming. It's up to you, whichever one you prefer. All right, we have 12 and 1/9 minus 7 and 1/3. First things first, I'm going to put it over here and write it up and down to make it a little bit easier to read. And I'm going to, first of all, I need to find the lowest common denominator in common between these two fractions, because obviously 9 and 3 are not the same denominator. So I'm thinking, hopefully you're thinking too. Well, 3 can go into 9. How many times does 3 go into 9? Well, 3 times 3 is 9. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 1 times 3 is 3. So I have 12 and 1/9 minus 7 and 3/9. We run into the same problem again. I can't subtract 1 minus 3. So now you have two options. You can either regroup or rename. First of all, let's regroup. We're going to do this one together, so hopefully you're taking notes here. I'm going to take 1 whole from this 12. If I take 1 whole from 12, that makes this 11. And I'm going to add it to here. I have to have the same denominator. So 9 over what would be the same thing as 1 whole? 9 over 9. 1/9 plus 9/9 equals 10/9. So let's rewrite our problem over here. 11 and 10/9 minus 7 and 3/9. All right, let's solve. I'm looking at the fractions first. 10 minus 3, well, that's 7. And our denominators stay exactly the same. We do not subtract those. So it's still going to be 9. And then 11 minus 7, which is 4. So our answer is 4 and 7/9. All right, so for all my regrouping folks out there, those of you that like to regroup, this is how you would solve. If you want to change to an improper fraction, we're going to do that next. All right, so I'm back to my original problem here before I regrouped after I found my least common denominators. So I have 12 and 1/9 minus 7 and 3/9. I'm going to change these to improper fractions to subtract. So our trick is multiply and then add. 7 times 9 is 63, plus 3 more from up here gives me 66. My denominator stays exactly the same, which is 9. Let's do up here. Whole number times the denominator, 12 times 9. These are big numbers here. 12 times 9 is 108, plus the one numerator up here, 108 plus 1 is 109 over 9. And now I can subtract. 109 minus 66 will give me 43. And our denominator is still going to be 9. So I get 43 over 9. Now this is a fraction greater than 1. So what I need to do is change this back into a mixed number. 43 over 9. Well, I need to think about, remember, 9/9 would be 1 whole. So how many times does 9 go into 43? Well, if I'm thinking about my multiplication tables right now, I know that 9 times 4 is 36, which is about as close to 43 as we're going to get. So 9 goes into 43 4 whole times, and 43 minus 36 will give us how much is left over. So 43 minus 36 is 7. So I have 7 left over, and our denominator is 9. So our answer is 4 and 7/9. We got the same answer as last time. All right. So our example number 3, 7 minus 5 and 2/3. All right, guys. I want you to pause this video, try to see if you can solve this one, and then we'll meet back here and solve it together. Okay, so you have paused the video, you have solved the problem. Now it is time to see if you are correct. So I'm going to rewrite the problem right here just so I can see it. 7 minus 5 and 2/3. And the first thing I notice right off the bat is that I do not have a fraction right here to subtract. That is not good. So what can I do to fix this? I think I'm going to have to regroup. So I'm going to take 1 whole from 7. If I take 1 whole from 7, that makes this really a 6. And if I take 1 whole from 7, I have to add it to here. I need the same denominator of 3, just like right here, to make it easy. So what over 3 would be the same thing as saying 1 whole? Well, 3 over 3 would be the same thing as saying 1 whole. So 6 3/3 minus 5 and 2/3. This is easy now. 3 minus 2 is 1, and our denominator is still going to be a 3. 6 minus 5 is 1, so your answer is 1 1/3. So easy. Okay, here's another one. Pause the video, see if you can solve it yourself. Alright, you have paused the video, you have solved it yourself. 6 minus 3 1/2. I'm going to breeze through this because I know you already know it. 6 minus 3 1/2. My first step is that I have to borrow. I'm going to regroup this 6. I'm going to take 1 whole from there. If I take 1 whole from 6, I make it a 5. And I need to add it to the fractions. So I need the same denominator of a 2. What over 2 would be the same thing as saying 1 whole? 2 over 2. So 5 and 2 over 2 minus 3 and 1/2. All right. 2 minus 1 is 1. Keep the same denominator of 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. My answer is 2 and 1/2. Give yourself a pat on the back if you get that one correct. Okay, my friends, it is time to go show what you know. Go to Canvas, take a quiz on subtracting mixed numbers with regrouping, and if you don't feel ready, you know what to do. You have to go back through and review these slides. Make sure that you're getting it right so that tomorrow during class you have an easy breezy day. All right, have fun.